everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the first installment of our series, Gifts of Winter. In the holiday bags, you received a calendar. One side was a calendar, and the other side of it contained suggestions for what to do every day during the winter season. And basically, that's to keep us engaged and to help us appreciate all the gifts that winter offers. Now the calendar has been updated since I included it in the holiday bag. So you can access it, the updated calendar, through our weekly WhatsApp. And I believe Riley is putting the link in the chat box so that you can do it from here. We're also going to be having a weekly discussion group on the topic on Wednesdays at 6:30 during the season. And the Zoom link for that is also in WhatsApp. And those of you who are watching us online, we welcome you to join us. If you'd like to find out more about the discussion group or anything we're doing, feel free to email me at unity@unityspiritualcenter.org. And also, if you'd like to join us on Zoom on Sundays, I'd be happy to give you information about that. So in this series, we're going to recognize and celebrate the gifts of the season of winter. Now, winter has historically gotten a bad rap. And we can see that in the song like "In the Bleak Midwinter," or from Shakespeare's Richard III, where Richard says, "Now is the winter of my discontent." And I think we've all heard the saying that death comes in the winter of our lives. Not a very positive view of winter. You know, I used to love winter. When I could ski and take part in winter activities, I loved it. In fact, I even got married in December because we chose to honeymoon skiing. But as I aged and I was no longer, my knees wouldn't support me in skiing or doing a lot of the things I did in winter, my thoughts about winter changed. You know, we also know that as the days get shorter, some people experience seasonal affective disorder, known as SAD. In fact, in the early 90s, I purchased a sunlight box, which was just that. You put it on, I bought the portable one, and you sit in front of it for 15 minutes a day, and that would help make up for the lack of light that was in the day. It's common for people to feel depressed or lethargic during the winter months, and I'm sure some of you can relate. But we all know that if I could actually see it differently, if I could actually look at winter again and embrace it and love it. And I did. I actually learned to honor the joy that I felt when I split firewood, or when I would build a huge fire in my fireplace and just sit in front of it. I loved putting out feeding cubes for the deer and watching the deer. What I realized was that winter offered quiet and solitude that allowed me to be still and really enjoy the simple things. And I realized that winter was a gift. Yeah, I didn't love shoveling snow, and especially when, you know, there was one year I think I had to shovel snow every other day. But I learned to change that thought and be grateful for the amount of exercise I was getting in shoveling the snow. In the Chinese culture, winter is respected as a time of rest and introspection. Now, according to the Ni Ching, a book of Chinese medicine, it says, in winter, people should retire early at night and rise late in the morning, and they should wait for the rising of the sun. I wouldn't mind that. Staying in bed till the sun came out. I don't think that's a possibility for many people, but it's a nice idea. The whole thing here, the whole idea behind that is rest. And during winter, nature is resting. It's nature's resting season. Nature is quiet and withdrawn. We see nature, the roots going deep into the earth, and those roots are preparing, they're hibernating and preparing for spring. And just like nature, this is a time for us to rest, to take care of ourselves, to eat well, to relax, and to sleep deeply. In that context, winter becomes so much more appealing. And again, I can say that I've come to appreciate winter. I'm still not fond of the cold, but winter has become an opportunity to slow down, to go within, to rest, to appreciate the sun even more than I did before. So let's look at some of the gifts of this season. I'd like to read a couple of passages from A Celebration of Winter Solstice in the Circle of Life by Joyce Rupp and Macrina Whitaker. They wrote, "There is a tendency to want to hurry from autumn to spring, to avoid the long, dark days that winter brings. Many people do not like constant days bereft of light and months filled with colder temperatures. They struggle with the bleakness of land and emptiness of trees. Their eyes and hearts seek color. Their spirits tire of tasting the endless gray skies. There is a great rejoicing in the thought that light and warmth will soon be filling more and more of each new day. But winter darkness has a positive side to it. And we all have the choice to recognize and honor the beauty in the often unwanted season of winter. We can be grateful for the courage winter offers. We can be grateful for the wisdom winter brings in teaching us about the need for withdrawal as an essential part of renewal. We can encourage our spirits as Earth prepares to move from this time of withdrawal into a season filled with light in the spring. The winter solstice celebrates the return of hope to our land as our planet experiences the first slow turn toward greater daylight. Soon we will welcome the return of the sun and the coming of springtime. As we do so, let us remember and embrace the positive, enriching aspects of winter's darkness. Pause now. Allow the darkness to come into your space. Allow the silence to be there for you. Let this space be a safe enclosure of creative gestation for you. Isn't that beautiful? I love creative gestation. So these passages are telling us that one of the gifts of winter is rest. I found a great meme on Facebook a couple of weeks ago that fits right in with this, and it says, nothing in nature blooms all year. Be patient with yourself. Nothing in nature blooms all year. So we allow ourselves to take the break that winter offers so that we can allow ourselves to get, again, rest and have that creative gestation. You know, we so much fight sometimes the need to rest. Our culture is one of just do it. And the focus is on achieving at all costs. And we forget that we have a very real psychological and physiological need for rest. Our bodies, our minds, our spirits need time off. So embrace the rest that winter offers. Another lesson we learn from this season is the importance of letting go. The 13th century poet and theologian Rumi once said, "Be like a tree and let the leaves drop." That's about letting go. If we pay attention, we see that winter encourages us like nature to let go. We're invited here to take some time alone and allow ourselves to drop some leaves. What beliefs or old baggage are you ready to get rid of? What no longer serves you? What are you holding on to that's preventing you from showing up in your fullness, from embracing all that God wants you to be? You know, there's an old saying that says you can't cross the ocean to a new shore if you're afraid of leaving the port. Can you imagine what would happen if trees were afraid to drop their leaves? If animals were afraid to hibernate? Nature recognizes that within each season. And this season is of letting go. This season is for us to let go too. You know, I know we're all familiar with Ecclesiastes 3, chapter 3, verses 1 to 8, that's been immortalized in the song Turn, Turn, Turn. But I'd like to remind everybody of what that reading is, what that passage says. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And we know that all those seasons are within us. All of that is within us. And each offers us another gift. We're going to be looking at this passage throughout the weeks as we continue with this series. You know, we can always choose to fight the seasons. We can resist the changing weather and landscapes, resist the changes inherent in the seasons of our own life. But we can also choose to flow gracefully with those changes, just as nature does. In Chinese philosophy, they associate each season with an element, and winter's element is water. The thing about water is that it's both adaptable and flexible. It can conform to any shape, yet erode the largest boulder. Water is subtle, yet powerful, as is the season of winter. This Chinese tradition also teaches that each of the 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, are manifest within our physical beings. When the element of water is in balance within us, it allows fluidity and flow, the ability to rest and nourish ourselves, the ability to guide our perception and reflection, and the ability to express feelings such as love. Plus, the qualities of compassion, understanding, and responsiveness to the needs of others are all characteristics of the winter water element. So from this description, we can see how important winter is and how important it is for us to take the time to rest, reflect, and nurture ourselves so that we can emerge in the spring refreshed, renewed, with a higher level of consciousness and awareness. You know, I don't know about you, but when I get tired, when I don't take the time to rest and recharge, I get depressed and lethargic, sometimes even cranky. My water element gets out of balance, and I have a really hard time getting motivated and just going with the flow. Rest is so important for our ability to be flexible, open, loving, and compassionate. So whenever I feel those issues coming on, I know that I need to recharge. I need to go within and recharge. review, reflect anything that might be occurring that's taking me out of balance so that I can go back into that balance. Nature has always been such a wonderful teacher, and we can learn so much about the natural order of things and the importance of accepting that natural order. Winter is a time of rest, a time to let the sap run down our roots, to be quiet, a time of preparation for the bursting forth of spring. And that leads to the incredible growth energy of summer, and finally to autumn's harvest. And then we rest again, and we begin again. And just as there are cycles in nature, there are cycles in our lives. The Hindu tradition teaches that there are 4 stages of life. The first is that of a student, traditionally lasting from birth to our 12th birthday. The primary responsibility during those times is to learn, to be as receptive as possible to what our teachers are there offering to us. But we don't acquire knowledge for knowledge's sake. The renowned religious studies scholar Huston Smith addresses this in his book, The World's Religions. And he wrote, habits were to be cultivated, character acquired. The liberally educated student was to emerge to turn out a good and effective life. So we were there to be instructed on how to live. And Smith takes us through these stages. And the second stage is that of a householder, which begins with marriage. Now, these are based in the Hindu tradition, and we can adapt these to today's standards or developments. So the second stage was to begin with the householder and begins with marriage, but it also begins with us being out on our own. And here our energies turn inward towards the pursuit of the first 3 human wants, which is pleasure, primarily through relationships, success through vocation, and duty through our community. Eventually, as our attachments to these worldly pursuits lessen, we move into the third stage, which is retirement. Now, Smith writes that it traditionally starts anytime after the birth of the first grandchild. And this stage encounters withdrawal from the rat race. Now, it could also mean maturity. It doesn't have to be the birth of a grandchild, but it could be maturity if we've had children, after our children are grown, after we've settled and completed our careers. He says, the time has come to begin one's adult education, to discover who one is and what life is about. It's the time for working out a philosophy and then working that philosophy into a way of life. A time for transcending the senses to find and dwell with the reality that underlies the natural world. So basically, he's talking about the expansion of consciousness, about letting go of those worldly pursuits, of those things that we thought were important, and really going within and nurturing ourselves, working on raising our consciousness, communing with the Christ, realizing our divinity. Then he says that finally, having reached the 4th stage and attaining a state of, I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, Sanyi Sun, which means one who neither hates nor loves anything, we are free to return to the world the same, but forever different. He says, taking no thought of the future and looking with indifference upon the present, this stage lives identified with the eternal self and beholds nothing else. So at this stage, we release our attachments to the material world, to fulfilling those ego-driven desires, and we're freed from obligations and expectations. We live from our essence. We have attained the bliss of emptiness. We've arrived knowing our divine essence. Now, what I appreciate about this teaching is its acknowledgement and appreciation for the different seasons of our lives. I think we lose sight of this in our Western culture, and there's an obsession with all things youthful. When we start to understand that every season has its gifts and that every season is inevitable, we can relax into the flow of those seasons and the flow of our lives. Now, we also remember that winter is a season of hope. We hope that the bulbs we planted in the fall will bloom in the spring. We hope that the snow will turn into rain and eventually ripen the fields. We hope the sun will return in its fullness and warm us once again. We hope. Now, Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore defines hope as the expectation of good in the future. Now, the ancients hoped, they believed that the trees would bud again, that the flowers would bloom again. They dealt with their fear of darkness by celebrating the coming of light. They had hope that the gods would soon reawaken and life would return to the earth. So during these winter months, we can ask ourselves, what is it that I hope for? During this time of rest and going within and going with the flow, we have the time to clear our minds and hearts and discern what is truly important to us. This brings a renewed energy to us, to our spring, to what we're planting, to what we hope to grow. So during this winter season, I invite you to spend more time resting, more time relaxing, more time in the quiet, more time going within. Follow the example of Mother Nature and let your sap flow into your roots, respecting the cycle of the seasons. Center yourself in hope and knowledge that spring will return just as the ancients did when they declared their hope of light's return during the solstice. Honor this season and every season of your life. And with that, I'd like to invite you to get comfortable in your seats as we move into meditation. I invite you to move anything that may be on your lap that will keep you from relaxing and letting go. Allow yourself to just breathe in and breathe out. And with every breath you take, you get more and more relaxed. You allow your breathing to slow, and you breathe at a comfortable pace for you. You open your heart and mind and center yourself in that deep spiritual peace that is God, that peace that is within you. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace. I know that I am one with God, and God is peace. Therefore, I now claim the very power as an essence of peace within me. The peace that organizes my thoughts, the peace that allows me to be undaunted by any set of conditions that may appear externally. I am peace, and I am this power of divine peace. When I am in this state of peace, I know that all things are possible because I am centered in my God nature. I affirm that I am one with divine mind, and I realize my infinite potential. I know this as my capacity to know that I can do all things through my Christ nature, through my divine identity. I know this truth for myself and for all of humanity. I know my peace, and I know that I am one with God. And with God, I am healed, I am whole, and I am pure spirit. And now I go deeper and deeper into the silence, and I just listen. And now I bring to mind all those who may be in need of prayer, all those who suffer in any way. I affirm God is life, God is presence, and I am one with God. And I know this to be true for me and for all. So I extend my love to all those who suffer. And I affirm that the presence within them will see them through any temporary difficulty they are experiencing. I affirm divine life, divine love, and divine guidance, and know that it is working through me and working through them always. And now I invite you to bring your consciousness back into the room where you are, back into your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And welcome back. And this is the time during our service where we have the opportunity to give. So I invite you to take your gifts and hold them in your hand. And whether it be, a check or you use a credit card or the PayPal symbol, just envision that. Envision that in your hands and feel the love that you are. Feel that energy moving down your arms from your heart into these gifts. And we know that God is our source and consciousness is our supply. And we're so grateful for this realization, for this knowledge, for this consciousness. And I invite you to bless these gifts with me. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I am open to receive. And I am grateful.
And our close.